Do you have any idea how many people you've killed?
No, I don't even know. I don't know.
But you remember doing it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I was engaged in a war, and the rules of engagement were kill or be killed, you know?
You say it's a war.
Back in the 90s, nobody in hip-hop had more power than Marion Suge Knight. He was a 6'4", 330-pound giant from Compton who moved like a mob boss and feared for his intimidation tactics.
Beast, he was a bully.
Good night, how you doing? Don't kill me. All right, now.
I'm talking about slap men hard. I'm talking about an open fist across their face.
But once he landed in the California prison system, all that power didn't mean a thing. In there, the only thing that counted was a reputation built on raw violence, and in that world, one man stood at the top: Sonika Monster Kody Shakur.
Do you have any idea how many people you've killed?
No, I don't even know.
So when Suge came face to face with him, the power dynamic flipped instantly. Let's get into it. Tupac's death and suspicions. The whole reason Monster Kody even had smoke with Suge Knight in the first place boiled down to one man, Tupac Shakur. Back in the early 90s, while Kody was still locked up, he and Pac formed a genuine friendship. Pac wasn't just some fanboy, but he really respected what Kody represented. He had read Monster, the autobiography of an LA gang member, cover to cover, and the book struck a chord with him. One of their most legendary interactions was a marathon phone call on October 18, 1995, where the two spoke for a full 22 minutes.
Be the niggas because they didn't understand the West Side.
I'm telling you, hey, I seen you on BET one time. It was you and John Singleton, right?
Yeah.
And you asked John Singleton, you read that book, Do or Die? And he said, have you read Eat to Live? And Watani was there too. Yeah.
So when Tupac was gunned down in Vegas a year later, it hit Kody like a ton of bricks. Kody started asking questions, digging around, and even talking to cats who were close to the case. And the more he heard, the more one name kept popping up in his head: Suge Knight. To Kody, something about the whole setup didn't sit right. Sure, Pac rolling with death row had thrown gasoline on the East Coast-West Coast fire, but Kody felt like there was more going on behind the surface. He later wrote about his suspicions. On hearing his death, my first thought was that Suge had set him up. I had no evidence, but had heard that a feud was brewing over contractual matters, including Machiavelli's firing of his lawyer, David Kenner, and his wanting to leave death row to start his own label. I read and reread all the news clippings about the shooting. Things kept fitting ill to me. I'd read that he had no vest on and then saw a photo and vibe to back it up. Yet from what I knew, Machiavelli didn't go anywhere without a vest or his heat. And if his killers were the Southside Crips, the ones he supposedly fought that night, why didn't they light up the whole convoy? Suge's crew was supposedly full of high-ranking blood, so why would a Crip skip all those targets just to hit someone who wasn't even a blood? That's where the seed of beef really came from. Pac was his friend, and in his mind, Suge might have had a hand in his death. So when fate dropped them both in the same prison, Kody wasn't about to let it slide. He wanted answers. Now here's where a lot of people from the outside get it twisted. Folks think that Suge Knight was the boogeyman of hip-hop, this unstoppable force that had everybody shook. And yeah, on the outside in the industry, he was that dude. But inside prison walls, that kind of power don't mean jack. In there, the only thing that really counts is your rep for violence, what you've done when it's just you, your hands, and the man in front of you. And in that arena, Suge couldn't even hold a candle to Monster Kody. This was a man who earned his name at 13 years old by literally stomping a grown man's face in until it was unrecognizable.
Where did Monster come from?
The name?
Yeah.
Because America produced me, but the name came from a beating that I had given a guy, and the dude hit me in the face, and then we chased him and beat him and stomped him and disfigured him, and the pigs, police, was saying that whoever had did this to this cat was Monster.
A man who had so many bodies under his belt that he admitted he couldn't even remember the count. When Kody breathed in a room, that bravado Suge was known for didn't fly anymore. Suge Knight meets the real monster. When Suge Knight hit the yard, he didn't even get the chance to flex. They sent him straight into the hole, solitary confinement. To Kody, this was the perfect setup to press him. Now, it's important to understand the two had actually never crossed paths on the streets. Their sets didn't rock with each other like that, but there'd never been any personal beef either. South Central and Compton were two different universes, far enough apart that politics didn't overlap, and by the time they landed in prison, both men were in their 30s. They weren't caught up in banging the same way the younger generation was. Kody looked at Suge and saw just another man in a cell, and because of that, Kody approached him on some straight-up man-to-man respect. He knew Suge had just come in from county and probably didn't have anything, so he extended a hand. Kody sat down, wrote Suge a short note introducing himself and breaking down the politics of how things worked in the hole. Then he put together a care package, a couple bars of soap, deodorant, some lotion, and a few packs of top ramen. He stuffed it all in a big envelope and had it rushed over to Suge. To most, it might have looked like a gesture of kindness, but to Kody, it was a strategy, a way to break the ice, to show he wasn't approaching out of fear, but out of dominance and control. The very next day, Suge wrote back, and Kody almost couldn't believe it. Here was the CEO of a company worth over $125 million, and yet his handwriting and grammar looked worse than what Kody's 7-year-old son could scribble down. The letters were crooked, clumsy, almost like a kid tracing out block shapes. At first, Kody tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Suge was stressed. Kody didn't trip too much on it. He shot back a kite. That's prison slang for a letter tied to a strip of bedsheet, weighted with a bar of soap so it could be slid or tossed from one cell to another. In it, he acknowledged Suge's note and threw out some advice, telling him he should just start pushing to get moved into the general population instead of rotting in the hole. The next day, Suge answered again, and the handwriting was still the same sloppy, stiff stick letters. Kody decided to work his angles. He pulled a few strings and got both their names added to the law library list. It guaranteed they'd be sitting side by side for 3 hours a week. Plenty of time for Kody to size him up, build some kind of rapport, and when the time was right, press him directly about Pac. And sure enough, the conversation started flowing. At first, it was casual, but it didn't take long for things to get heavy. Out of everything Suge said, one line stuck out was when he told Kody that Tupac died owing him money. That didn't make sense to Kody. Pac had just brought in more than $60 million for death row. He was the cash cow, the biggest star they had, the man literally keeping the lights on. How could someone like that owe a dime to anybody? As they kept chopping it up, Suge eventually started walking him through the night Pac got shot. He said the whole mess actually started earlier that day when someone snatched a death row chain. For Suge and Pac, that was more than jewelry. That was a badge of honor, and losing it was like a slap in the face. Pac was livid, storming around, saying it couldn't slide. "You know how we are," Suge told him. "When it's on, it's on." Later that night, Pac spotted the dude in the crowd, and with no hesitation, they rushed him right there, putting hands on him. They didn't recover the chain, but the message was clear. After that, they hit Suge's spot, swapped clothes, and chilled for a bit, talking about sliding off to meet some women before heading to the club. It should have been a celebration. Mike Tyson had just won the fight, and the city was buzzing. But Pac wasn't at ease. All day he'd been saying the same thing over and over. He didn't want to go back to prison, almost like a broken record. Then Suge got to the part everybody knows. They rolled out, laughing, talking, then out of nowhere, gunfire tore through the night. The car got lit up, chaos exploding in seconds. Then Suge told Kody that Orlando Anderson was the one who killed Tupac. By the time Suge finished, Kody wasn't just listening to a story, he was watching a man unravel. That larger-than-life Suge Knight was gone. What sat across from Kody was someone quieter, broken almost. A man carrying the look of someone who had lost the most valuable thing in his life and deep down knew he could never get it back. Now, people who've heard this story always point out the same detail. Suge wouldn't have opened up like that to just anybody. If it was some random inmate with no stripes, Suge probably would have brushed him off, maybe even bullied him just to flex his power. But this was Monster Kody. His reputation was already stamped into LA street legend. Suge had to have known who he was dealing with, and maybe that's exactly why he started spilling. Because if there's one man Suge Knight couldn't intimidate, it was Monster Kody. Monster Kody. Monster Kody was born Kody DeJohn Scott on November 13, 1963 in Los Angeles, California. His parents, Ernest Scott and Bertie Canada, were originally from Houston, Texas. Kody was the fifth of 6 kids. He had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Kody believed there was a chance that his real father was Dick Bass, a former running back for the Los Angeles Rams. He thought his mother may have had an affair with a football player, but there's no solid proof to support that claim. Whether true or not, his supposed father, Ernest Scott, held a deep grudge against Bertie over the alleged affair. He regularly abused her in front of the kids during Kody's early childhood. Ernest also mistreated Kody specifically, both physically and emotionally. He would beat him often and clearly favored his biological children over Kody. For example, he would take the other kids out to restaurants, movies, or even to visit his hometown in Houston, but he would always leave Kody behind on purpose. In 1970, Ernest and Bertie got divorced. Even after that, Ernest would still visit the family on weekends, but he continued to show nothing but dislike and coldness towards Kody. By 1972, Bertie had moved the family into a home near 69th Street and Denker Avenue, right in the middle of a dangerous, gang-heavy neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles. Birdie was working several jobs to support the family, so she wasn't home much. Because of the neglect he felt from both parents, Kody started spending most of his time on the streets. It was around then that he began hanging out with his neighbor, Stanley Tookie Williams, the leader of the West Side Crips. In his book, Blue Rage, Black Redemption, Tookie recalled how Kody was always around, watching him and the other Crip members hang out, lift weights, and smoke PCP. They would talk about their fights and shootings while young Kody listened closely. To a kid with no real parental guidance, this was his version of education. He was soaking it all in, fascinated by the power and respect that these men commanded.
And at that age, it's very easy to feel powerless because a lot of us are powerless. So we join gangs, as I did, for the power.
Tookie would later say he regretted the way he acted around Kody, knowing how much influence he had on the boy. He blamed himself for exposing Kody to gang life and drugs, especially PCP, which Kody would later become heavily addicted to. By 1975, a new Crip faction called the 8 Tray Gangsters had formed in Kody's neighborhood, and he wasted no time joining up. He had just graduated from 6th grade, but instead of worrying about school, he was already making a name for himself in the streets. His initiation was no joke. One night, he and some other gang members stole a car, loaded it up with weapons, and went hunting for rival gang members. Their target was a group of Bloods known as the Brims, and Kody was handed a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun with strict instructions. He wasn't allowed to leave the scene until he had fired every last shell. That was his entry into the gang world, and from then on, he was locked in. His reputation as Monster Kody only grew from there. He became known as one of the most ruthless members of the 8 Tray Gangsters, and his name struck fear into both enemies and allies. By the time he was 14, he had already caught his first serious case. In 1978, he was arrested for shooting a fast food worker who had disrespected his younger brother, Kershawn. He also became a central figure in the deadly war between the 8 Tray Gangster Crips and the Rollin' 60s Crips. The war started over a girl. A fight between an 8 Tray recruit and someone from the 60s turned into gun violence, and the 8 Tray member ended up killing Tyrone, the younger brother of Big Rick, a well-known 60s member.
79, along with
one of the most deadliest
arrest
rivalries in there, but
was the start
by the grace
of
of
the
God,
8-Tray,
since I
Roll
knew
60.
both of them from
So I understand the whole thing was over a girl.
I stayed out.
That changed everything. Neighborhoods that used to be cool with each other had to take sides, and old friends becoming enemies. Monster Kody was deep in the middle of the war. He shot and attacked dozens of Rollin' 60s members. It got so bad that a woman named Elisa Burks McKnight, who lost several nephews to the war, claimed that Monster Kody captured one of her nephews, chopped him up, and kept his arms as trophies, and he was only 16 at the time.
Monster Kody did an interview, and he said that he brought somebody's arm.
You mean to tell me that story is real?
Yes, that was Jay Blake's arm. It was real. He did bring an arm back. They chopped him up and put him in front of Jefferson High School.
Not long after, Kody was ambushed and shot 6 times by 3 adult Rollin' 60s members. He had been set up by some girls who were dating guys from his set. What probably saved his life was the fact that earlier that night, he had been drinking cheap wine called Night Train and smoking PCP during a New Year's Eve celebration. Because he was so high, his body didn't go into shock after the shooting. While in the hospital, Kody said he had hallucinations where he saw the faces of everyone he had shot over the years, and also saw his baby daughter. He survived and spent several weeks recovering. Meanwhile, his younger brother Kershawn, known as Lil Monster and also an 8 Tray, wanted revenge. On New Year's Day, 1981, Kershawn and a few other young 8 Trays went on a shooting spree. Kershawn shot 2 teens at a party in the 60s neighborhood and later killed another teen in a drive-by. He was later arrested and sentenced to 5 years in juvenile detention for murder. While Kody was still in the hospital, the same people who shot him came back to try and finish the job. A nurse stepped in and saved his life. But once Kody was released, he didn't slow down. He went straight back to attacking and killing Rollin' 60s members. Monster Kody was a serious threat to the Rollin' 60s, a true menace. After the war, Monster ended up getting sent back to jail again. Now, despite dropping out of high school, Kody found himself drawn to education while behind bars. Prison gave him time to think, and he used that time to read. Learning about Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, and revolutionary ideologies that made him question everything he had been taught in the streets. He started associating with members of the Republic of New Africa, and that exposure pushed him to re-examine his purpose. It wasn't just about survival anymore. He wanted something bigger, something that mattered. His involvement in activism deepened when he participated in the 1992 Los Angeles riots, a massive uprising sparked by the brutal beating of Rodney King by LAPD officers. The riots were a turning point in LA's history, and Kody was right in the middle of it, standing with his people in defiance of a system that had oppressed them for generations. That, of course, led to yet another arrest. By 1993, Kody was sitting in solitary confinement at Pelican Bay State Prison, one of the most notorious prisons in California. But it was in that cell, alone with his thoughts, that he decided to write down his life story. That decision led to Monster, the autobiography of an LA gang member, a book that would shake the world. When Monster was released, it hit differently. At that time, gang culture was still somewhat of a mystery to the general public. Most people only saw the surface-level violence, but Kody's book gave them a first-hand account of what life in the trenches was really like.
This book is 383 pages of reality. I'm uniquely qualified to write 383 pages of life for this generation, and that's what I've done. It's 383 pages of gore, no doubt about that, but it's reality. It happens every day.
He didn't glamorize it, he told the raw, unfiltered truth. In the opening of the book, he made it clear why he was writing. I propose to open my mind as wide as possible to allow my readers the first ever glimpse of South Central from my side of the gun, street, fence, and wall. It is not for glory that I write this. It is out of desperation for the survival of the youths and civilians who are directly and indirectly involved in the fighting. Bond with Tupac. It was around this time that Monster, Kody, and Tupac really linked up and became cool. They didn't have a ton of public interactions, but one of the first recorded ones was a heavy 22-minute phone call on October 18, 1995, and in that short window, they covered a lot. Kody started off talking about his life story and how he wanted Pac to play him in a movie about it. Pac was down for the idea. They even touched on the possibility of making music together, with Pac inviting Kody to pull up to a studio once he got the chance. What made that bond even stronger was the fact that Pac had already read Monster, the autobiography of an LA gang member, while he was locked up. He respected the book so much that he told Kody he once found himself in a situation where a gun got pulled on him, and his mind instantly flashed back to a scene in that book.
First thing I thought about was reading in your book when you was talking about how you felt when them niggas drew down on you.
Ain't that cold?
Exactly how I felt. The setup, the shit you was talking about, how you just look up and the nigga be like, boom, right there.
But the most important part of the conversation was about change. Pac laid out this whole plan he had for uplifting black communities. He even had ideas about addressing violence in the streets. Pac wanted to talk directly to shot callers in different neighborhoods and negotiate peace hours. No shootings, no crime, so kids could clean the streets safely. He wanted politicians to back it by making sure police didn't harass people during those times.
Invite them niggas to some Sean Perrion, steak and lobster, and be like, look, player, we asking you, not telling you, we asking you as a player to a player, can you please give us a pass to have these streets clean for the kids? Let them the niggas be safe during those times. No gunshots, no drug dealers. From 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., y'all can have the streets back. But let us get the streets from these times.
On top of that, they even discussed doing a book on Tupac's life. Pac said he'd been thinking about it already, and he called Kody's book a classic. Kody told him Pac's story would be even crazier, and looking back, he wasn't wrong. Then the conversation shifted to one of the darkest moments in Pac's life, the Quad Studio shooting. Pac admitted that before the shooting, he put the movement above everything. He believed in unity, in breaking down barriers and bringing people together. But after getting shot and feeling betrayed, he changed. He started leaning into gang ties in a smaller circle because, in his mind, being open and trusting had gotten him set up. Kody could relate. He told Pac that's exactly why he kept his own circle tight. Too many friends, too much openness, it only creates chances for betrayal. He said he only trusted a select few, and he was intentional about who he called family. Looking back now, that part of the conversation feels chilling, because in the end, one of the biggest theories about Pac's death is that it was the people closest to him who led to his downfall. And that's why, when Tupac died, Monster Kody's first thought wasn't about the streets, it was about Suge Knight. Monster Kody never got the chance to fully bring his vision to life with Tupac, but that didn't stop him from carving out his own legacy. He went from being one of LA's most feared gang members to an author and activist who used his story as a warning about the traps of that lifestyle. Unlike Suge Knight, who's still sitting in prison, Kody managed to flip his life around in a different way. His journey came to a close in 2021 when he was found dead, passing away from natural causes.